Hello, Tim from urensoftware.com here. I was talking with my friend about money and the flow of money and where it goes, and he got me interested. I was thinking, wonder if I can build a program which would help us track the flow of money, and this is what I came up with. So I've just created a blank project in Xcode right here. I'll start by creating a new data type. We'll call it person, and I want each person to have a certain amount of money as well as a certain amount of hours that they have worked and a certain amount of connections. So that's the data I want to store on each person. Next we will create a pointer to a population, or a group of people we'll call population. We'll set the population something like 1 million. I think that's 1 million. And we will create a government budget as well. Now, I think the first method that I'll create is to create the population. So basically, I want to allocate the memory to the pointer that we set up. I want it the size of the population that we specified, and we need to find the size of an individual person. Next we'll set the government budget equal to 0, and we'll define the parameters for socialism here. So we'll give everyone the same amount of money, and we'll create a for loop to iterate through everyone in the population. Okay, so I'm going to create a person, let's call them citizen. So I'll set the money for each citizen equal to $2,000. I'll set the number of hours that they've worked equal to 0. And at this point, nobody knows anyone else, so we'll give them all 0 connections as well. And then I will just set the person at index I equal to citizen. Let's tidy up that a little bit. Okay, so that's our first method. Now we'll create a method which will facilitate a transaction. So we'll call it new transaction. Now I want 3 people to be involved in each transaction. We'll have person A, have person B, and we'll have person C as well. And it'll become clear why I'm doing this in just a second. So person A will be receiving the goods, which means they must be paying for them, so we'll deduct $200 from their bank account. I don't want anyone to have any debt in this society, so if the person's money has reached $0, let's give them some money from the government budget, let's call this welfare, and increase their own bank account by $200. Meanwhile, person B, the laborer, we will increase the number of hours that they've worked by 5. And we will also increase the number of, or the money that they've earned by, say, $100. It's also important to note that I don't want any money created or destroyed in this process. I forgot to put in the pointers up here, so I'll just add the pointers. Now person C, we'll call this the middleman. They're going to take a finder's fee for connecting person A and person B. They'll take $80 for themselves, and we know that they've made 2 connections in the process between the purchaser and the seller, or the worker. Okay. The government will also be taking some tax from this transaction, 10% we should call it. So they'll be taking $20 for themselves. Yeah, as I said, there's no money being created or destroyed in this process. It will equal to the money that's transferred from person A, will be redistributed. I mean, sure, commercial banks have the power to create money, but not inconsequentially, not without devaluing it for everyone else. So we can go down to our main code here. Now basically I just want the program to keep running until I tell it to stop. So we'll do a while loop that's always true. And I'll create a pointer to 3 different people. Person A, person B, and person C. We'll call person A the customer, person B the worker, and person C we'll call the aristocrat. Now I want to select random individuals in the population. So I'm just creating 3 integers, random selection, the size of the population. Okay, so I'm setting customer equal to the memory address of selection A in the population, and I'm doing the same for worker and also the same for aristocrat. Okay. Now the only thing I want to make sure is that the aristocrat should have more money than the worker, otherwise they're not really an aristocrat. And likewise, they should have worked less hours than the worker. And make sure you get your signs the right way. So if that condition is true, I want to make sure that we re-choose some other individuals that do fulfill that criteria. I'm just going to copy and paste that code and have it choose those 3 people again until we're satisfied that the aristocrat has more money and has worked less hours. Okay, at which point we can start a transaction between the customer and the worker and the aristocrat. I forgot the most important thing that we set up before is to allocate the memory to the population, so we need to call that method first of all. Now I want a way of retrieving what the wealth gap is in our population. That is to say, what the difference is between the highest and the lowest bank account is. So I'm going to create an integer, lowest, set it to a number that's very high, highest, set it to a number that's very low. And then I'll iterate through everyone in the population again. Okay, so we have a person, which is the current person, and we'll set that equal to index L. Okay, and if the current person's money should be working with pointers for performance reasons. So if the current person's money is less than the lowest, we will create the new lowest and set it equal to the current person's money. And contrawise, if the current person's money is greater than the highest, we will set the highest to current person's money. This will tell us who has the highest and who has the lowest amount of money. And it's a pointer, so it's looking for a memory address. We'll put the ampersand in there. That's why I like Xcode. It's really useful at debugging stuff like that. Okay, now we're just going to return the highest minus the lowest bank account, and that will tell us what the difference is in dollars. I want to print out some of the information that we've got in our program at the moment, and I'll just do that in comma separated values so we can integrate it into Excel really easily. Okay, the first value I will print out is going to be the government budget, and the second will be the wealth gap from the function we just created. In fact, I might store wealth gap as its own integer, and because I don't want every single iteration, every transaction printed out, what we'll do is we'll create a variable previous wealth gap, and if previous gap is not equal to wealth gap, then we will print out what the information is. That will just give us, every time the wealth gap has changed, we can see what the new values are. So set previous gap equal to wealth gap, and forgot the second parameter here, wealth gap. Okay, now that should work if we build and run that. It's outputting some values. This looks good. Don't forget to give yourself a new line character. That can really help. Yeah, they'll definitely improve readability. So here are our values. I might leave this program running for an hour or so, just because I know it will take a long time to get the data we need. Okay, so I've left it running for an hour. This is the information that we've got. It's not a lot, but there are a lot of while loops and for loops, so it's not surprising. Now I'm just going to copy and paste that into Excel. I've already delimited by the comma, and we'll create a chart. So here's our chart at the moment. Let's label the bottom axis correctly. Select data, category axis. Okay, I'll move that into the corner, make it a little bit bigger for you to see. Okay. All right, so it's almost a curve. It's not quite a curve, but it certainly is gaining momentum. If we put the trend line in here, and we'll give it a power, you see there's a high R value. That means the trend line corresponds pretty highly with the data that we've got. We've also got the equation there, which looks a bit odd. But you can see, remembering that the lowest amount of money possible for anyone in the population to have is $0 because of our welfare that we've programmed in. That means with the wealth gap at 2,840, that is the maximum amount of money that person has, $2,840. If you were to look at how much the government budget now has, it's about $20 million. So you can see that the bigger the wealth gap is in our population, the more money directly that the government has and more it benefits from it, even in a debt-free society. Alright, well that's the video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want, and I hope you enjoyed.